Good morning, everybody, on this Saturday morning. Hope you have your
Yes.
coffee.
And your AC.
And your AC. Go
And your distraction from the
distraction.
left.
Yes, exactly. Anyways, welcome back to Conversations with Mother. We got a bit of a personal one today.
Yeah.
So before we jump into that, I'm going to turn it over. Oh, I'm sorry. I am Blake, as always. And with me is Michelle, a.k.a. Mother. So I'm going to turn it over to Mother, and you have something to say before we get going.
Yeah. I just felt like sometimes conversations get hard and sometimes we talk about difficult things. So I always like to be as trauma informed as I can and be like, hey, we're going to talk about hard shit. So before we get into today's conversation, I want to name a few things gently. This podcast is rooted in therapy, psychology, systems, spirituality, and the kind of like meaning making that both Blake and I care really deeply about. But this is also a very personal conversation today. I am a counselor, but in this space, I'm not acting as one ever. I'm just a person moving through life, trying to understand my own patterns, my own healing, my own relationships, even my own spirituality, and what that means to not just survive, but actually thrive in my own space and my body. And even though I try to hold a wide lens, I know I can't encompass every experience out there. And I can't speak for every family or every culture, every identity, every trauma, every spiritual path, or every way a person survives. So I want you to take what's useful, leave what is not, and let this be a conversation, not a prescription. In this episode, we're going to talk about family roles. Childhood neglect will come up, rejection, religious shame, sexuality, queerness, body symptoms, anger, and the parts of ourselves that learn to hide in order to survive. So as always, take care of yourself when you listen. Notice what happens in your body. Pause if you need to. Come back if you need to. This episode is not about blaming ourselves for our survival responses. It's about understanding them with a little bit more compassion and more honesty than we normally do.
Absolutely. So with that, welcome back to Conversations with Mother. I feel like that is an important note that we needed to start off with. So today's episode is called "The Parts of Us That Learn to Survive." And I feel like this is the episode where we finally admit that our inner world is not one calm, organized person making rational decisions all the time.
Absolutely not. My inner world is more like a group project where everyone has trauma and one person is still trying to make the spreadsheet.
Ooh, spreadsheet king. But nobody's agreed on the font, though.
Right. And somehow the anxious part has already emailed the professor.
Twice.
Yep. At least. Right. But really today we're talking about parts. And the parts of us that learned to survive and the parts of us that became useful, the parts that became quiet, and the parts that became angry, funny, spiritual, intuitive, creative, sexual, rebellious, hidden, or so good at surviving that we mistook them for our whole personality.
Bloop. So we're not just talking about parts work in theory today.
No. Today we're going to get personal. Because last episode we asked who wrote the story we're healing from. We talked about therapy, we talked about systems, we talked about oppression, family, culture, spirituality, capitalism, religion, and all the forces that shape us before we even have a language for ourselves, right? And today we're asking the next question. What did that story leave inside of us? Because systems don't only shape what we believe, they shape the parts of us that come forward and the parts of us that go underground and hide away. They shape who gets to be visible, who has to be useful, who has to stay quiet, and who has to become funny before they can become vulnerable, and who has to be capable because nobody else is going to come save you. Who has to become rebellious because obedience feels like disappearing.
Yeah, that one feels really close to home for me.
Same. And I think that was kind of the point. We wanted to get into like we're telling a story, right? I can't tell somebody else's story. But when we talk about like shadow work or protectors or our inner children, family systems or parts work, we're not talking about brokenness. And I think that that's something that we both felt before. We're talking about how we adapted. We're talking about the inner strategies we developed to stay connected or safe or valued, loved, or at least not completely alone.
So the question is not only like, why am I like this?
Right. Because even that question can become a hiding place if we use it to avoid accountability.
Yeah.
The better question might be, what part of me learned this? What was that part trying to protect? And how is that part affecting my life and the people around me now? Because understanding a survival response does not remove that accountability.
Right.
It helps us stop shaming the part long enough to work with it honestly. And a part may have formed to protect us, but it doesn't mean it needs to get to harm us or other people forever.
Right. So we're not saying like this part has a reason, so it gets to do whatever it wants.
Oh, I just have this temper. It's just who I am. But we're saying this part has a reason, so now I can understand it clearly enough to take responsibility for it. And that's the difference, right?
Yeah.
Compassion helps us listen. Accountability helps us choose differently. So when we can ask, does this part still need this job, or is it time to help protect me in a different way? And I think one of the first parts many of us has to look at is the useful part, the part that learned, if I can be helpful enough, needed enough, funny enough, capable enough, maybe I get to stay in this space.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
And so we can start with the useful part. Because I think so many of us learned that being useful was safer than being ourselves.
Yeah.
And if I can help fix or entertain, solve, produce.
Hi, it's me. I'm the problem.
Yeah.
It's me.
Must be doing something.
That's it at all times.
Yeah, at all times.
Yep.
But, those caretaker parts of us or the management parts of us, or if we continue to do those things, maybe that's securing our space or our place in that space.
Yeah.
Words are hard. So you start thinking, well, if I do this, maybe I won't be rejected or too much.
Yeah.
We don't like that word. Or maybe I won't be forgotten.
Yeah. And that one is very, very real for me. Like the part that became useful for me was this caretaker and performer. Like I learned really early that if I could make them laugh and if I could entertain them or solve their problems or be the one everyone could rely on, then I had value.
Yeah.
Like that was, I don't know. It's being useful felt safer than simply just being myself. It gave me a place in the room before people had the chance to reject the parts of me that I thought were unacceptable. So and I still notice the instinct. I move toward this creating, helping, fixing, producing kind of mentality. And those can be wonderful qualities. I get shit done. They can be wonderful qualities, but sometimes they come from a place of earning my place instead of believing that I already have one.
Mm-hmm. And I like what you said right there, like earning my place instead of believing I already have one.
Mm-hmm.
That is such a big survival part because usefulness can become a substitute for actually belonging.
Yeah.
And a lot of us didn't learn I belong because I am. We learned I belong because I'm needed.
Yeah. Well, and needed can feel very close to loved.
Yeah, a lot like love. And close enough that it can take a long time to realize they're really not the same thing at all.
Yeah. No, not at all. But what about, okay, so what about for you, though, with the useful parts?
I think for me, the useful part started small, but they became really, really, really enormous, right? So I grew up feeling like I always had to be the smaller one. I always had to kind of like hide myself. And I was just thinking about this morning. I never took the spotlight because it was never handed to me. And I remembered an incident this morning of we had just moved to Washington State, and my nephew was singing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was upstairs, like in the loft, and he was like downstairs singing. And I started singing with him, and he was like, "You can sing?" I'm in my 40s at this point. Yeah, I can sing. But I was never given the spotlight, and I never took it because I was always afraid of taking it away from somebody else, because I had to make myself the smaller one.
Yeah.
And that was my sister's kids, right? So like my sister was placed in the role of being the better one, the high performing one, and I became the problem child. And it's not necessarily because I was doing something terrible. It was because I questioned things. I wasn't the problem child. I was the child that pointed out the problems. And I questioned the unfairness about how I was being treated. And I questioned why my needs were being overlooked. I was left alone a lot.
Yeah.
And I questioned that neglect I was experiencing and why nobody was willing to acknowledge it. So in my family, questioning the system meant I no longer comfortably fit inside of it. And when I pointed out what was happening, I became the problem instead of the treatment being the problem.
And that's such a family systems thing too. Like the person who names the dysfunction becomes labeled as the dysfunction.
Yep, exactly. So I learned how to become smaller because that's what me belonging in that family required.
Yeah.
And I learned to keep the peace by staying quiet. I learned to read a room real good and deciding which parts of myself were welcome there and which needed to go and hide away. And being myself never felt safe. I learned how to become whatever the moment required.
Yep.
Competent, capable, calm, helpful, funny when things were uncomfortable, and strong when everyone else needed somewhere to fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned how to perform stability even when I didn't feel stable inside and I wanted to fall apart.
Yeah. And that feels exhausting.
It was.
Yeah. Very much.
Yeah. But for a long time, I really was like, I'm that one. That's me. This is just who I am. I thought I'm adaptable. I'm capable. I'm the one who can handle it. And a lot of those things are true. You know, they are, but they weren't the whole truth. They were also the part of me that learned how to survive in those roles.
Yeah. So the useful part helped you survive, but it also taught you that care had to be earned.
Yeah.
Relatable.
Yeah. And that's exactly it, right? So my useful part believed that I could only belong if I was useful, agreeable, impressive, or like even like just easy enough for other people to just tolerate.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what they did. They tolerated me. And that's the thing about those survival parts. They're not fake. They often have real gifts. The caretaker can really care, and they do it with a lot of passion. And the performer can really bring joy. And the capable one really can build a life.
Mm-hmm.
But when those parts are working from fear instead of freedom, they start running the whole system. And when one part runs the whole system, it can start making choices that affect our relationship, our health, our boundaries, and the people who love us.
Right. So it's not get rid of this useful part or get rid of the useful part.
No, it's maybe the useful part can stop being the only way we believe that we deserve to stay in that relationship, in that room, in that system.
Yeah. Well, and that useful part makes me think about the quiet part too. Like, because sometimes to become useful, you have to make other things quiet.
Yes. And it's usually the parts that need something. You know, those are the parts that have feelings. And those are the parts that are all usually the inconvenient part to like everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, for me, and this is particularly the biggest part of this is in my marriage, like before I divorced. You know, my needs had to become quiet, you know. It was not just my identity, but my emotions, my fears, my questions, even my excitement. Like I had felt like I had to keep quiet sometimes, you know. But that's the last major survival that I can remember with that part. Now, growing up, I learned that some conversations were safer just left unspoken. You know, just it being gay, keep it quiet.
Yep.
Like, we're cool with it. Like, we support you, but we're not going to talk about it.
it.
Like, just don't talk about it. If any, you know, with our friends, don't bring it up. Like, you know, stuff like that. You know, my spirituality stayed quiet. So it's like later, even parts of like my gender identity stayed quiet because I had already learned like what happened when you were different. You know, I became very good at reading the room before deciding whether I could fully enter it.
Yeah. I feel that like on a soul level.
Yeah.
But that was a really great way to explain that. So like reading the room before you decided that you could fully enter it. And that's what survival does. And it teaches us to arrive partially.
Yeah, partially is the word. Like I could be there, but not all the way there.
Right. And, you know, from a family systems and decolonizing lens, we have to ask what systems taught you that all of you was too dangerous to bring into the room.
Yeah.
You know, for some of us, it's religion, family, heteronormativity, gender expectations. Was it shame? Was it the fear of losing that belonging in that room?
Yes. Yes, all of the above. with like a nice little seasonal garnish.
Oh, a very judgmental garnish, though. I feel like for me, the parts that I learned to hide were often the parts that needed something. Like I said before, it was like the tired part or the hurt part or the part that wanted somebody to notice that I was not okay.
Yeah.
Nobody ever did.
Yeah. That's
Yeah. And, you know, that part that wanted to be protected instead of having to always protect myself. And the part that wanted somebody to say, you shouldn't have had to carry all of this alone. And I learned how to hide those needs because needing something felt really, really dangerous. Something bad would happen. And if I was already being treated like the difficult one, then expressing pain felt like it would only give people more evidence that I was the problem.
Yeah. So then the need itself became dangerous.
Yeah. And I think that's where our quiet parts can be like misunderstood. So sometimes that quiet part, it's not peaceful at all. And the quiet part has learned that nobody is going to show up for us.
Yeah.
And that part doesn't need shame. That part needs to be taken care of. And it needs to know that needing something doesn't make it bad. It needs to know that being tired doesn't make you weak. And it needs to know that rest doesn't have to wait until your body breaks all the way down.
Well, that feels important because a lot of people don't realize how much their personality is organized around not needing anything.
Oh God, you and I know that so well.
Very well. Very well.
And not needing anything can look really super strong from the outside. Wow, you can do amazing things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes it's just loneliness with good posture.
And loneliness with good posture is devastating.
Isn't it? And so many of us were like praised for it. Look at you. Look at what you got through.
My favorite, I never had to worry about you.
You needed to worry about me. I was the one that needed to be worried about.
We never had to worry about you because you always had it down.
Yeah, you always had it. You're so capable.
You're so capable. Thanks. It's survival. Appreciate it.
And that's where I want to talk about anger, right?
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
Yeah. Because anger is one of those parts that gets judged so quickly.
Yep.
Especially if your role was to be quiet or be useful or pleasing or easy to manage.
Yeah. And anger is usually the mask. I mean, for me, it's that part that became angry was the part that just wanted fairness.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever been an angry person by nature. I can't even think of a time where I just walk around like, just angry at the world. But I became angry whenever I realized like people benefited from misunderstanding me, or when systems expected me to shrink so everyone else could stay comfortable. Like, the anger wasn't about revenge in that sense. It was this grief that finally had a voice, like the hyper independence. When I get angry and frustrated with that, is it because I've asked so many times to help carry the load, and it's throughout life, it's just been shut down, and nobody's picked it up. And so that anger is because of that grief of grieving the fact that I've had to ask so many times that I can't set hyper independence down.
Yeah.
There was a part of me that was like, why did I have to carry all of this just so other people did not have to question themselves?
Right. Or why am I carrying all of this? It's not even mine. Yeah. And when it comes to carrying my shit, I'm carrying it all by myself. There's nobody there to help me because you're capable.
You're capable. We don't have to worry about you.
But that's beautiful. So it sounds like for you, anger was your grief that finally found a voice.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And that's such a super trauma informed way to understand the anger, right? It's not the enemy. It doesn't have permission to harm, but it's information.
Right. I think that matters because sometimes people hear anger and they immediately think of danger or violence, even, a very uncomfortable situation.
Yeah. And anger can become dangerous when it's used to control, punish, or judge, or intimidate or harm. So accountability still matters in that anger portion, right? We can honor anger as information without handing it the steering wheel. Yeah. Although sometimes I like to hand it a plate and say, here, smash it. Not on anybody.
Listen, I might be on a healing journey, but I might jump off that path.
Right?
And use a crystal to
all of a sudden, all the crystals on the plates are gone.
Just gone.
But that's where we look at it. And anger is not automatically the problem, right?
Right.
Sometimes anger is the part that refuses reality or refuses to be edited or deleted. Mm-hmm. And for me, my angry part didn't become angry because she was unreasonable. She became angry because nobody listened the first time. She tried to ask questions. She tried to explain. She tried pointing out the injustice. She tried using softer words and giving people the benefit of the doubt. And when those attempts were dismissed, anger became the part that finally said, no, this is happening, and I'm not going to pretend that it's not anymore.
Mm-hmm. And then your anger became proof, or became the proof that you were the problem.
For everybody. It's so dumb. And when in my experience, it was mostly a response to being ignored, neglected, excluded, or misrepresented. The fucking rumor mill about me. I'm part of a cult. Did you know that?
I do love a good rumor mill about myself.
Me too. I like
hearing the extravagant life that I've lived.
Me too. I have a cult and everybody calls me mother. It's so dumb.
I know.
But that's why I always come back to in myself, I always come back to that little kid in me that questioned the injustice. She wasn't the problem child. She was the child that could still see something was definitely wrong.
Yeah. Well, that's the line.
Yeah, and I think that, isn't it? This is what's wrong. But I think that's where the Jungian shadow work comes in. Right. And the shadow is not just where the bad parts live. Sometimes the shadow is where the exiled truth sits and waits. And it's where anger goes when the family systems can't tolerate the honesty anymore. And it's where confidence goes when you're taught to be small.
Yeah.
And it's where desire goes when your pleasure was shamed. And I think it's where your intuition also goes to die. No, I'm just kidding.
To die.
But it is, because it's like that's where your intuition goes into the shadow, when the kinds of knowing that we have were not allowed.
No, absolutely.
How did you know that? I don't know.
I don't know.
Somebody it's just there.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is with shadow work. Like, people hear shadow and it's almost like anger. They think negatively.
Yeah.
And it's like the shadow is not automatically evil.
Mm-hmm.
That's the big thing.
It's often like I said, those parts that we had to hide in order for us to belong in those moments.
Yeah.
And when we bring something out of the shadow, it doesn't mean like acting on every impulse. It means becoming honest enough to have a choice.
Yeah.
And that means that shadow work is not about digging around for how terrible we were. It's about asking what parts of our humanity were pushed out of view.
Mm. It feels much less scary that way.
Right? I'm like pulling this little devil out of the shadow. Like, peekaboo.
I mean, we joke about the basement being haunted.
I know.
You know, but...
But I think it really is haunted.
It is haunted. I live down there. It is haunted. I know it is.
And I mean, shadow work is still always going to be uncomfortable, right? But if we make it less shame-based, then it's not so uncomfortable. Because now we're not saying like, what's wrong with me? We're asking, what part of us did we have to hide away?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, okay, so can we talk about humor now? Because I think we've gone through the anger, we've gone through the useful. Now humor is another one that we definitely can bring up, because I feel like humor is one of my oldest survival languages.
Right. But humor is tricky.
Yeah.
Because it can be real joy and also real protection at the same time. Oh,
absolutely. I mean, humor became one of my safety languages.
Yeah.
Like, it's the one that I felt the most safest with. If I could make people laugh, if I could build that connection before being vulnerable, or for that vulnerability, comedy gave me control over situations that otherwise felt very uncertain for me.
Yeah.
It made difficult conversations easier, and awkward moments or awkwardness much lighter. And sometimes it also distracted the people from looking too closely at the parts of me that I wasn't ready to share with them. Yeah. But that's the thing, is like you keep saying, the funny part of me is real. I'm a goofy person sometimes,
and you're funny.
I'm like, when the house goes to sleep, I'm down in the basement in my underwear and a tank top, like dancing, like, come on, Vogue. I mean, if y'all like walked into the room, you'd be like, get it,
I join.
It's almost like every night, But anyways, it just wasn't always about joy.
Yeah.
With the humor portion of it, sometimes it was protection.
I love that. Like, that's how parts work should feel.
Yeah.
Like, not this part of me is fake. I'm not acting. This part is real.
Oh, that was my ankle, if y'all heard that pop.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry.
Your back hurts.
My back does hurt, but I slept wrong because I'm almost 40.
I sneezed. And now I have a pinch in my shoulder for like 2 weeks. And here's where the humor.
And there's the humor right there, because we're being vulnerable. Well, we're being vulnerable too.
Yes. And right, and that part, it's not fake, right? So
right.
That part is real. It has a history, and the funny part may be joyful. It may be brilliant.
Yeah.
It may be creative. But it may also be standing at the front door saying, nobody gets in unless I make them laugh first.
Oh, yeah. Oh God, my humor has definitely worked security.
Yeah, mine too. And mine had a badge she made herself.
Mine's self-appointed, but committed.
Very committed. So I don't know. For me, like humor often became a way to manage the discomfort in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And because if something got really tense, I could lighten it with that humor.
Mm-hmm.
And if people were uncomfortable, I could make the room easier to be in. And again, that's not a bad quality. Humor can connect people, can soften really hard things, and it can help us breathe. But humor becomes the only way. If humor becomes the only way we're allowed to be honest, then it also becomes a hiding place.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and that for me, that connects over to creativity too.
Mm-hmm.
Humor and kind of creativity for me go hand in hand, because for me, creativity was both expression and escape. And it still is, in a way. But specifically in thinking of things like in my life, theater, drag,
Mm-hmm.
writing, the creating gave me places where I could breathe, come up for air from under the water, so to speak. It let me explore these parts of myself that weren't always welcome in everyday life. For a little while, I could stop surviving and just simply imagine.
It's such a beautiful way to say it. Creativity gave you a world where more of you could exist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And drag especially gave me a place to play with confidence, with gender, with humor.
Mm-hmm.
God, that's where I got my wit from, beauty, power in this performance in a way that felt expansive. It was not, for me, it was, my phone's listening to me, but anyways, it just goes bleep. But anyways, for me, yeah, it felt in a way that felt expansive. Like it wasn't just, and still is not just about dressing up. There's a difference that I always, and I don't think I've ever said this to you, between we're like an artist who paints and me who does drag.
Yeah.
We're both artists. My only thing, the way I see, is I get to wear my art.
Oh, yeah.
I paint on my face where they paint on a canvas. And so it's more than just dressing up for me.
You are the art.
I am the art. Mm-hmm. And it becomes this place where parts of me could speak louder than they were allowed to in everyday life.
Right.
The ultra feminine.
Oh, gosh.
All of this stuff. So.
And I feel like that really matters, right? So the oppressive system always says, you must be smaller than you are. It tries to flatten people. Mm-hmm. And then they say, can you just be this thing, this one acceptable thing? Put yourself in this little box because it's easy to categorize you and put you away. But creativity says, actually, I can contain the whole weather system.
Exactly. It's like some days might be a light drizzle and other days it's a tornado and lashes.
Exactly. And I support that meteorological range that you have. I think I'm like that's a hard word.
That's a long word. Words are hard.
Oh my gosh. I think for me, creativity has also been a way to make a world that fits better than the one I was handed.
Yeah.
So writing, podcasting, therapy, spiritual work, has so many paths, creating resources. Those aren't just projects. They're ways of building a language for the parts of me that didn't always have a place to go.
Yeah.
Creativity became a way to gather myself back and have a way forward.
Yeah.
But that moves us into the parts that had to hide a little bit more deeply, right? So the spiritual parts, the intuitive parts, the sexual or sensual parts.
Yeah.
The rebellious parts, the wild parts. Because we be wild.
We be wild.
And so those parts that didn't fit into that family system of please be in this box so I can, when I'm done with you, I can put you away by category. And I understand the good category. It's great.
Same.
But those things, our family system, religious system, gender systems, or cultural systems, those are things that we were handed. And those are the parts that didn't fit inside of those boxes, right?
Yeah. I just have to laugh because I say we're being wild when all it is we add a little extra sugar to our watermelon and we're in bed by 9 o'clock with Tylenol.
Hey, we might be wild tonight, okay?
That's true. We might be. Well, I don't think that those parts were absent for me. I think that what happened with those is that they grew under the weight of shame.
Mm-hmm.
My spirituality became something I explored in private.
Mm-hmm.
As I began questioning like the beliefs that I inherited, and that's the way I love to put that, I found myself more drawn towards these structures, spiritual structures of like Wicca, paganism, tarot, and eventually embracing the mediumship aspect of it. Those were not just new interests. They were my way of searching for a place where I could exist without feeling condemned. Because that was one thing that I always carried with me as a kid, is feeling condemned for being different. And it's like my sexuality became intertwined with rebellion. It was never like I was never taught that being gay was okay. I was always, you're going to hell, you're going to burn. And my family was supported. Don't get me wrong.
It's fine. They were fine that you're going to burn in hell.
Yeah, we're totally great. But we're still going to go to church and you're still going to burn in hell. Yeah. Everything around me suggested it was something to fear or to overcome. So once I've finally had freedom, I pushed super hard in the opposite direction. Yeah. And not that I'm advocating for this, but even at a young age, very promiscuous.
Mm-hmm.
And it was that promiscuity, it wasn't just about sex and hormones and being, a teenager at that time. Looking back, that was exploration. It was defiance. It proved to myself that no one else got to decide what I could or could not be.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And that's such a super honest reflection of sometimes that shit's hard to talk about.
Yeah.
And I think it holds the complexity really well, because sometimes what looks like rebellion from the outside is actually just a reclamation of who you are as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes rebellion can be messy. And sometimes it comes with consequences. But sometimes it can be both freeing and still something we look back on with more tenderness and more honesty or better understanding. It's a person trying to feel ownership over their body or the desire that they feel, or even their identity, or a truth that other people tried to control.
Yeah, no, absolutely. My rebelliousness was not about breaking rules just to break rules.
Yeah.
It was never about that. It was about refusing to let other people's certainty become my prison.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it was about. Every question I asked, every identity I explored, every expectation I challenged was an attempt to find out who I actually was beneath everything that I had been told I was.
Yeah. And I feel like that ties directly into the whole decolonizing or deconstructing parts of therapy, because decolonizing and deconstructing is deconstructing yourself asks what parts of me were controlled or shamed or demonized or made unacceptable by these systems that needed me to be smaller.
Yeah.
And what parts were called dangerous because they were free. What parts were called sinful because they were honest. And what parts were called too much because they were powerful. And that's hard. And I think for me, my spiritual, intuitive, creative sensual, powerful, and wild parts also learned to go underground. I had to exist in a different space, right? So I was judged for, oh God, you were a young mom. You're just going to fuck this all up. So now I had to put all of those parts of me away. And when I put them away, those were because those were not always the parts that fit into the role that I had been assigned. I'm a mom. I'm not allowed to be sensual.
No.
I'm not allowed to be intuitive. And the problem child was supposed to be powerful or was not supposed to be powerful, because if I was powerful, I was talking against the system.
Yeah.
And the neglected child was not supposed to trust their own intuition. The person who had been taught to become smaller was not supposed to take up space or experience pleasure or create freely or speak with certainty about what I know.
Yeah. You had to translate those parts into your safer language.
Yeah, usually not existing at all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But that, I could explain like my intuition as like, oh, it's just a pattern. I notice a pattern, and I still do it to this day, and I need to stop doing that. But my intuition, I explained it away as pattern recognition, or I could explain like energy through the nervous system, or I could call ritual mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
And I could make my spirituality more clinical and my creativity more productive so that other people would see them as legitimate or even more palatable. But those parts were never just legitimate or illegitimate, they were some of the truest parts of me.
Right.
They were the parts that stayed connected to the meaning, the possibility, the beauty, the power, and something larger than the family system I'd been taught to survive inside.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like remembering.
It is. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And that's where like the spiritual and like the psychological kind of overlap for me, because some people may call this like inner child work. Some people may call it shadow work. Some people call it parts work. Some people call it a soul retrieval. And some people may call it like nervous system healing itself or returning to yourself. And the language can change, but the movement is similar. We're finding the parts of us that had to leave or hide or perform or translate or protect themselves. And we're asking, can we bring them home now?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that brings us to the big question. What parts became so good at surviving that we mistook it for our whole entire personality?
Right, and that's like that's the whole core of this episode, right?
That's the episode right there.
So what about for you?
Oh God, for me, I became an expert at managing perception.
Okay.
Yeah, I could read a room within seconds, within minutes, with whatever. Like I knew how much humor to use, how much vulnerability to show, how much of my spirituality to mention or anything like that. I'm like, what do we have? What do we do?
Just lip gloss.
Just lip gloss. But like how much of my spirituality to mention, whether to soften my opinions, whether it was safe to talk about being gay, or whether this version of me would be accepted. For years, like I just simply thought that like I'm adaptable. Mm-hmm. I'm great. I can go with the flow. Mm-hmm. It's like, as I told Tyler yesterday, I need to know which way the flow is going, what time the flow starts, when it ends, who's going to be on the river with us, what river we're on, before I just go with the flow, But now it's like I look back on that and like I think I was fragmented.
Yeah.
It's the different versions of me weren't fake. It's just, they were all real. They were just distributed across like different rooms, because I didn't believe, and still have a hard time sometimes believing, that all of me could exist in the same one.
Yeah. And I feel like that's a very clear description of how you survived. And it wasn't fake. You were just distributed.
Yeah.
And that's important, right? Because sometimes people start healing and they feel a lot of shame about the versions of themselves that they had to become. And they think, was I fake? Was I performing? Was I lying? And maybe sometimes we were performing. But performance doesn't mean that it was false. And sometimes performance means that we're just trying to find the safest available version of the truth.
Yes, absolutely. And now the work is not becoming someone new.
No.
That's not the work. It's inviting all of those distributed versions of myself back into the same room and discovering that they were never separate people to begin with.
Yeah. And that's the work. And I feel like I'm going to be doing work forever. And sometimes it feels exhausting, but it's just, it is what it is. And, for me, I felt like I had to become so skilled at being whatever, like, the moment required, that I didn't always know who I was when nobody needed anything from me, especially as a mom. Too.
Yeah.
It's like, what do I do?
Yeah.
And I spent a lot of time becoming somebody else, and not one false person exactly, but like a collection of like survival roles. I collect things, personalities too, apparently. I don't have multiple personalities. Let's throw that out there. Sometimes.
We're on to gays now.
Yeah.
We're collecting gays.
We're collecting gays. I keep them in the basement.
Yes, exactly.
But it's like, I had to like combine all these things to feel like I could survive in that situation. So like sometimes I had to be capable. A lot of times I had to be the strong one because everybody else needed to fall apart. I wasn't allowed to. And then in those moments, I had to be the useful one. And then I got labeled as the difficult one, and I was always the one that could handle it. I was capable.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have to worry
handle
about
anything. You're so strong.
No, I'm falling apart on the inside, but on the outside, I was the one who would keep going long after my body told me to just stop.
Yeah.
And as I got older, maintaining that identity became more than emotional strain. My body started carrying it too. I started having health problems. I developed atrial fibrillation, and I experienced that chronic fatigue. Mm-hmm. And my body started telling me the truth about what my brain had been trained to override. And it was saying, you can't keep living as though your only purpose is to just endure everything.
Oof. Yeah, that's heavy.
It is. And it was hard to accept, and even then, in those moments, I kept pushing because the belief underneath all of it was still there. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure it is still there in some capacity or other of like, if I stop, nobody else is going to do it. If I rest, something will be missed. If I fall apart, then nobody's going to be there to catch me. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's the cruel part about becoming the capable one, is that people can become so accustomed to your survival skills that they stop wondering what those skills are costing you.
Yeah. Well, and you can stop wondering too.
Yeah. You can stop wondering until the body starts wondering for you.
Yeah, exactly.
So, when we talk about like healing for me has been the process of meeting the person underneath those roles and learning that becoming myself doesn't mean rejecting every part of me that helped me survive is the way to go. The adaptable part still has wisdom, and the competent part of me has built a life, and a really great life, I think. Yeah. And the angry part knows when something is unjust and I speak out. And the spiritual and creative parts keep something alive in me when the rest of me was being asked to disappear. But those parts no longer have to work alone.
Right. Well, and that feels like the integration.
Yeah.
Portion of it.
And integration is not getting rid of those parts. It's like helping that inner system like move and stop living in that emergency mode. Mm-hmm. Like We don't have to be the peacekeeper to earn or our belonging through silence. And the useful part doesn't have to prove that I deserve to be cared for.
Yeah.
And the angry part does not have to scream before it's heard. And the tired part doesn't have to wait until my body breaks down before I'm allowed to rest.
I just have one question. Why did you look at me whenever I said the useful part deserves care? No, I'm just kidding.
What?
Huh?
What?
You looked right at me. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm not saying anything. We can stop being useful every once in a while.
I know, right?
I can be the model of how to be like, and I'm not going grocery shopping. Here's a list.
Right. Well, that feels like the tenderness of the episode, though, is all of that you just said. All joking aside with the usefulness and deserving care. That's the tenderness of the episode.
It is, because the child who questioned that injustice was not the problem child.
Yeah.
Just the child who pointed out the problems.
Yeah, right.
Sorry. But she was the part of me that could see that something was wrong. There was something off. And she was the part of me that refused to disappear completely, even when disappearing would have made life easier for everyone else to manage.
Yeah.
And I think that changed my way of seeing healing. Becoming myself hasn't been about creating an entirely new person. I have accountability and responsibility for things that I've taken responsibility for.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that I am a part of the problem. But for me, it's been going about back to the parts of me that I was taught to silence or shrink or hide or mistrust. The questioning part, the angry part, the tired part, the spiritual part, the creative and powerful parts. And the child who knew that something was wrong before I had the language to even explain it.
Yeah.
And it's not because every part gets to run my life. And that's what I'm saying. Like, there's a part of that where like the accountability is on my end, and I take that. But every survival response does not get to stay in charge, because those parts of us deserve to be understood instead of abandoned.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not becoming somebody else. I'm becoming whole enough to belong to myself, and I'm becoming mine.
So freaking true. So where do we land this? Because we've named a lot of parts today.
Yeah.
A lot of parts.
Just a lot.
The useful part, the quiet part, angry, funny, spiritual, creative, sexual, rebellious. We've named all of these parts. The parts that helped us survive and the parts we mistook for our whole personality. And I think part of the landing is realizing and understanding a part does not mean handing it the keys to the house.
Exactly. Like, understanding our parts does not mean every part gets to run the whole system or our whole life. The angry part doesn't get to harm people no matter how badly you want to. And the funny part doesn't get to deflect every feeling.
No.
That's the part that, like, about being funny that can be dangerous, right? And the useful part doesn't get to work us into the fucking ground. And the quiet part doesn't get to disappear forever. The rebellious part doesn't have to burn everything down just to prove it's free.
Yeah. And at the same time, like, none of those parts need to be hated. Maybe you can't hate them, because hating them is usually what kept them underground in the first place. Mm-hmm. If a part learned to protect us through humor or silence or control or performance or anger, the shame is probably not going to be the thing that helps it soften.
No. And shame usually makes the parts more extreme or more defensive.
Yeah.
And a lot more desperate,
mm-hmm.
And we become more convinced that they have to keep doing their job. So I think the work is a relationship. So not letting the part take over and not pretending that the part has no impact, but building enough of a relationship that we can ask better questions, because every feeling serves a purpose.
Yeah.
Even anxiety. Like, I hate anxiety. I wish it would fuck all the way off 90% of the
Same.
time. God, it's so dumb. It's so stupid. You're in the moment. You're like, this is dumb. Why do I have anxiety? We're literally just going not to this restaurant, but to this restaurant. But now I have anxiety.
I have anxiety.
Because where's this restaurant? Is there parking? But that anxiety is a beneficial feeling in that moment, right? Where it's like it starts you questioning. And then we can ask, why are we anxious about these things? Those parts serve a purpose. Every feeling serves a purpose. It's our system telling us something is, you need to pay attention to something.
Yeah. Well, it's like, what are you trying to protect?
Mm-hmm.
One of the best things, I thought about this morning as I was like looking over some of the things that we're going to talk about today. One of the best things I've ever heard in like a therapeutic setting or therapy setting is that you imagine yourself in a boardroom, you're at the head of the table, and you have every single version of yourself around this conference table.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be the inner child, the angry teenager, the rebellious sexual one, the useful one, the overproduction, all of this stuff. And you go around the table and you go, listen, I'm CEO. I am in charge of y'all.
Mm-hmm.
What do you need? And you ask every single one of them that question. What do you need as you go around? And you have to also include your future self at that same table too, because manifestation, all of that kind of stuff, past, present, future, all working together. If we want to go down that route,
Mm-hmm.
your future self needs to be there because your future self already has all the answers. And you can look at your future self and basically say, okay, what do we do? What's the next step?
Yeah.
And your future self will already know that instinctual next step, because I think a lot of people, we are born into this world and we're handed to our parents, and then we look to our parents over and over again for survival, for needs being met and all that stuff, but we're never taught not to look for somebody else along the way of growing up. And so we reach adulthood and we go into adulthood going, where's the next person to reach for to fulfill my need? When you could turn it and say, okay, now I am the person.
Mm-hmm.
I am the parent of myself, of this human. So you can wake up every morning and go, okay, what does this 37-year-old genderqueer gay man need this morning? Probably water.
Yeah,
is probably what he needs, because he's probably a little dehydrated. But, that's the thing, is like realizing, like, how old do you feel in those moments? What are you afraid would happen if you stopped doing this particular thing, this job? Who taught you that this was the only way to survive?
Yeah.
I think the biggest one is, what do you need now?
Yeah, I think, and I think that's what you just asked, right? So like, you've had the answers all along, and nobody teaches you that.
Yeah.
Because God forbid you be powerful.
Forbid.
But what do you need now? Because that part of you that frustrates you, it's not the enemy. It's the part that you need to be talking to. And it's the part of you that learn the rules of survival before you even had the safety to ask yourself or to be whole and to find the answers within. Yeah.
And maybe it doesn't need to disappear. Maybe it just needs a new role. The funny part can still bring joy, but it doesn't have to stand guard at every doorway. The angry part can still recognize injustice, but it doesn't have to set the whole damn room on fire to prove that something happened. We love to pour gasoline. Like, don't get me, like, here, let me just help you.
Mm-hmm.
And the useful part can still help. It can still create and care. It doesn't have to earn belonging. Where's the mirror? Let me look at myself. It doesn't have to earn belonging by becoming exhausted.
We can just exist.
We can just exist. Absolutely.
And that's, like you said, that's the integration, right? That's not erasing those parts of us. It's asking them what they want, what they need. And we don't have to romanticize every behavior. And we're not saying this is just how I am, so everyone just has to deal with it. But it's also not saying like, I hate this part of me, so I'm going to cut it out. Goodbye forever. Integration is about like helping the inner system stop living in that freaking like fight or flight emergency mode.
Absolutely. And that is what feels like the difference between survival and wholeness.
Mm-hmm.
Survival says like, this part has to do this job forever because it's the only way we stay safe. And it's more like wholeness says, hey, thank you for getting me here to this point. Now let's see if we have more choices. that we or more choices than we used to.
Yeah. And that's exactly it. Like the work is like to listen without letting a one part drive the entire time. To find that inner child and just pull it in for a hug, like, thank you for how hard you worked. Tell them the truth about who you are now. Like you said, I'm the CEO, help them understand that survival may have been necessary in that moment. And then when those things were happening, but it doesn't have to be the only story you have now.
Exactly. And that is the question people can carry from this episode, not how do I get rid of this part of me, but what is this part trying to tell me, and how can I respond with both compassion and responsibility? Compassion being a big one.
Yeah.
Have compassion for yourself.
Compassion and responsibility.
Yes.
Because I think those belong together. Compassion helps us understand the part, but responsibility helps us choose what we want to do with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So many things to think about.
I know. I feel like we just, it's like the Kleenex box where we're like,
yeah, it's the never-ending scarf.
Exactly. You're right. Coming out of the pocket.
There's just more. It never ends.
Yeah.
But at some point we do have to end because we don't have all the time of the day.
True.
I have to go to work.
Yeah, and you have to go to work.
Yay.
Yes.
I actually enjoy work now, so that's fun.
Yeah.
But thank you for sitting at the table with us today. If this episode brought up parts of you that feel familiar, maybe you don't have to fix them tonight. Maybe you just notice them. The useful part, that quiet part, the angry part, all the parts, the funny part, the spiritual part, the creative part, the rebellious part, the tired part, and the child part that still remembers that things weren't fair. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Ask them gently, what job were you given? What did you protect? What did you have to hide? And what do you need now?
What do you need now?
And the parts of you that survived are not proof that you're broken. They're proof that something in you kept trying to live. That's survival. And healing doesn't have to mean becoming somebody entirely new. Sometimes healing is just inviting all the versions of yourself back into the same room and realizing that they're never separate people to begin with.
Absolutely. Well, y'all, if this conversation connected with you, make sure you like, follow, subscribe, all the things to keep the internet gods pleased in our little podcast floating through the algorithmic sea. Almost fumbled over that word. Anyways, but you can meteorological. You can find Conversations with Mother on YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, and Facebook. And you can also find more from us at houseofmanypaths.com. And if this episode stirred something in you and you're wanting to do your own shadow work, parts work, deeper self-reflection, or even a reading with me, because I am kicking those back up, reach out. You don't have to do this work alone. We're here. And as always, leave us a comment. We really do want to hear from you. What landed, what challenged you, what parts of this conversation felt familiar, or what you want to hear us talk about next even. Mm-hmm. Yes, we have ideas and stuff like that. But we also, if y'all have something that you want us to touch on, by all means, let us know. We would be happy to cover what we can.
Yes. And however you love, however you heal, you're always welcome here. From Mother's house to yours, be well.
Bye, y'all.